Hello out there in TV land. One of the biggies that we got today is that you don't know who you are. We're on February 29th, 2016, and we're here to inform you that your rights come from God. They cannot never, ever be taken away for any reason, and you can't give them away, and you can't sign them away. But your rights are God-given. We're here about the Constitution, which is about God's laws only. And we're here about the Bill of Rights, which is God's laws only. And the Declaration of Independence, which the Bill of Rights and Declaration of Independence is the foundation for the Constitution. And it's all about God and His people. And also, we're wanting to tell everyone today about God's army, and that people's heard about God's army, and you have to think for just a minute that, don't you think that God would inform His army of what's going on, and what the truth is, and what the lies are, and everything that they're lying to us about? Now, it applies with all the local courthouses, all the local sheriffs, all the local police officers. They're all lying, and they're perpetrating a lie for the higher up and enforcing the lies. Well, as far as lawmakers and policy makers, there's no such a thing, because you can't change God's laws, period. And we're here to also to inform everyone they need to find the love of Jesus and to be saved, and to repent and ask the good Lord to come and save you like He is the rest of us. Now, God's army is awake, and God's army is alive, and I was wanting to read a couple things. One is, if you're claiming to be a U.S. citizen, that's a big lie too. U.S. citizen derives from the body of law, which you got your Black Laws dictionaries. These are better known as the court's dictionaries and the judges' Bibles. And it's got it all in there. But if you look at the body of law, that all these codes, sections, titles, and rules, that's not even in the Constitution, that they enforce, which is just a pack of lies too. But if you're claiming to be a U.S. citizen, this is what you're claiming to be. You're claiming to be a legal, artificial entity created by government. That's right, it only exists on paper. And we all thought that a U.S. citizen and an American were one and the same. I was ignorant too, and dumbfounded, along with a bunch of other folks, but people are waking up to the fact. An American, not American citizen, you're not a citizen of anything unless you volunteer to be a citizen. And if you volunteer to be a citizen, then you agreed to be ruled by Caesar. Or murderers, rapists, liars, cheats, scammers. Pedophiles. Oh my God, the list is endless. Anyway, the way to recognize an American is they disguised it as a non-resident alien. So anyway, bottom line is, we don't want to get complicated with this thing. We just want to let you know that a U.S. citizen is nothing more than a legal, artificial entity created by government. And when you hear the word legal come out of anybody's mouth, it's a lie. There's nothing lawful about legal. Anyway, I was wanting to talk a little bit more about God's standing army. We're all waiting on Jesus to come and save us. And if you're privy to that or blind to that, you need to get awake. Immediately, right away. And we all got to stand as God's army, because in John chapter 17, verse 15, Jesus prayed in the second coming that He would come and not to take us from this world, but to rid us of evil. It doesn't sound like the end of the world to me. It sounds like a thing of greatness and joy. This is also the most troubling times, and we're almost at the end of it, or we're getting through it. And it's the most exciting times too, if you know Jesus. And the only way that you'll ever know Jesus is to find him in your heart and soul and know that Jesus is there. And Jesus actually, when he came, it was God coming in the flesh. And of course, anyway, and also, I wanted to tell everyone about a little story about what happened to me, confronting all the evil that's going on around us. And I used to think it was just the judges, and of course some of my friends and everybody used to think that too, but when we went down these rabbit holes and found out the truth of it all, it turns out that it's just all a big lie. Anyway, our judges, it's actually the lie perpetrates all the way down from Satan himself, which is what they call the elite up in Washington, government, kings, rulers, whatever they want to call themselves. You can put a title on anything as far as when it comes to Satan. He don't care. But anyway, it trickles down all through the judges and everybody, and they flace their pockets with your taxpayers' money. And your tax money goes to pay the interest on the national debt, period. It doesn't go to any streets. It don't go to any roads or schools. It doesn't pay any of our police officers or anybody in government, kings or rulers, money. It's to fleece the pockets of the evil, and it's also to pay on the national debt, the interest of the national debt, and Lord knows where that money goes. Well, anyway, talking about the national debt, the 18 trillion, which is a lot more than that, we're just going to use the 18 trillion, that's enough money that the taxpayers people pay. That's enough money to buy everybody a house, everybody land, everybody a brand new car. Even the poor and the homeless could have a home, land, cars, everything. And we pissed away enough money to do that. Well, that's just ignorant. But anyway, in the enlightenment of it all, the evil trickles down from the higher power all the way down to our tellers at the banks, all the way down to the tellers at our courthouses, those innocent ladies that go to churches on Sundays that think they're really doing the right thing. Oh no. No, you're perpetrating a lie for Satan himself, and you know it. I think I would rather fear the Lord and get right with the Lord than fear my next paycheck. Or I don't want to say anything because they'll fire me. I would rather be fired and be right with God and the good Lord Jesus than to put up with Satan's lies. I don't see how y'all people sleep at night. Now this is worldwide. It's not just local over here, and I have wore these people out. Me and a good friend of mine have planted too many seeds, and we're going to plant a bunch of more today. Well, anyway, a police officer is nothing different than a martial law officer. When our police officers and our elected officials took their oath of office, they put their hand on the Bible, and they promised the Lord that they would protect and defend His laws. That's why they're called the supreme laws of the land, and policymakers and lawmakers can't touch it. But they butchered it to death. That's what Satan does. Excuse me. Anyway, our police officers aren't called police officers. When you took an oath of office and you promised God that, while you had your hand on the Bible, you're promising God that you'll protect and defend the Lord. And you're promising God that you'll protect and defend His people. So therefore, you can't take away people's rights because they're God-given, they're not government-granted, period. I don't care how many pieces of paper you sign. And we've got all these innocent people in prisons, debtors' prisons, and oh my God, they're butchering lives. They're murdering people right and left, and it's just sick. Anyway, the people's getting fed up. God's army is alive and well. And anyway, I just wanted to explain that when our officers put their hand on the Bible and they promised the Lord that they would protect and defend the Lord and His people and His laws, period. And there's only 10 of them, 10 golden rules. And actually, Jesus came and made it even simpler than that. To love thy neighbor as you love thyself, and to only honor the one God. There's not many gods, there's only one. And of course, we're the likeness and the image of that. And if we stand as God's army, which it should be everyone, even the evildoers need to wake up, because they're going to wake up anyway to it, and quit doing all this for the next paycheck. Do it for the Lord. You elected official and you government people and everyone, the way you want to call yourselves, it don't matter. You took an oath too, and you promised God you would protect and defend Him just like I do, just like the people should. And we're supposed to stand up for the Constitution because it's God's laws only. We should stand up for the Bill of Rights because it's God's laws only. We should stand up for the Declaration of Independence because it's God's laws only. Anyway, an oath of office with your hand on the Bible means God's laws only. Hey, it don't get any simpler than that. Anyway, now, claiming to be a U.S. citizen also does something else. I'm going to explain a little bit what happened to me in a nutshell, and it should open people's eyes to a lot of things. And it's this: I got approached by the GBI, the FBI, the GGG, the KKK, the LLL, BBB, GGG, whatever they want to call themselves. They were all there. State representatives, judges, traveling judges, hell, they was all there. And this is what happened. Even the local sheriff. I told them they were all victims too, but they didn't want to listen to that. They wanted to just keep on and get that paycheck. Well, you're going to have to answer to that. When God comes around, when Jesus comes and saves us any day now, and it's any day, He's already saving a bunch of us, but God's army will always be saved, and we win. Don't you want to be on the winning side of things when it comes down to the what's right and what's wrong? It's just as simple as that. We need our local police, peace officers to stand up for God and to stand up for the people and do the right thing. Don't do it because they're going to fire you. Heck, we the people. We'll put you in position. We'll put you in that power that you're supposed to be in anyway. The local sheriff is the highest ranking officer there can be. And don't let anybody kid you of that. Anyway, the local sheriff pulls together and he gets all of his elite. Now that's real. You can call yourself an elite when you stand up for God. But these people up in Washington are not elites. Period. Now they might be Satan's finest, but they're not God's finest. And they're going to find that out in the end. Now here's what happened to me in a nutshell. I went to record papers at the courthouse, and I didn't know that they could lock you up for that, just for recording papers. And I was not going after anybody, I wasn't doing anything, and I was just trying to wake everyone up because, you know, this is about God. It's about the good Lord Jesus coming and saving us any day now, and it's about God's children, which we're all God's children. And as far as coming to save us. And so that, in a nutshell, is a lot better than trying to bow, look the other way, live Satan's lies and everything. And we need our local officials to start waking up worldwide, and they already are. Now, when I got approached by Satan's army, I was the only one there except for me and the good Lord, and I would not go in that building. I would not meet them folks anywhere or anything until I prayed and asked for Jesus to be with me and to save me from the wrenches of evil. And I was so intimidated by it, I couldn't believe it, but I was on a mission, And I'm not the only one that's on a mission. There's a bunch of us on missions. And we're messengers of God. And everyone's a messenger, whether you realize it or not. As long as it's all for the good and not for the evil. Well, when I finally prayed to the Lord and He told me that I was doing the right thing and I was doing what I was supposed to be there doing, my confidence built up. I had God in my heart 100%, and the intimidation went right out the window. I did not let these people intimidate me at all, because I trumped all their lies with the truth. And this is pretty much how it went down. Well, when I first got there, they were trying to make out like I wasn't being detained and I'm not being arrested. We're just talking, right? I said, okay, that's fair. Anyway, so they got to explaining to me that I'm considered to be a terrorist. And I said, oh, wait a minute. I said, you think I'm a terrorist? And they said, yeah. And I said, hang on. I said, are you saying that I steal 747 airplanes and fly them into buildings? And they started all laughing because that sounded so ridiculous. They said, no, you're not that kind of terrorist. And I'm going, oh my God, there's more than one kind of terrorist? Anyway, so I'm just listening, and after I said that, and they were all laughing, they go, oh no, you're not that kind of terrorist. And I said, well, and they go, well, wouldn't you like to know what kind of terrorist you are? And I said, yes, sir, by all means. Anyway, so they started telling me that, well, if me, meaning the elected, the officers, if they were to pull me over in my actually private vehicle, anyway, if they were to pull me over, him or one of or his officers, or the sheriff or anybody like that were to pull me over, is what he's telling me. I said, okay. But I'm thinking in the back of my mind, what this got to do with me? And, excuse me. Anyway, I said, okay, you pull me over or anybody else, any U.S. citizen. I said, And then they go, or if you run a stop sign, or one of the U.S. citizens runs a stop sign, I'm still thinking, I don't know what this has got to do with me, but I'm listening. I'm not saying nothing, and I'm just going along with it. I'm going, okay, all right, run a stop sign, or if the officer pulls you over, or if we pull you over, or any U.S. citizen for speeding, or anything like that, and I'm thinking, okay, and then he blurts it out. He says, all U.S. citizens are domestic terrorists. Did you hear what I said? Yep, you're all considered to be domestic terrorists now. And anyway, except they bumped me up a notch from that. I'm not a domestic terrorist anymore, I'm a paper terrorist. Anyway, when they told me that, I thought, a paper terrorist, I've read a lot of books, I've studied a lot of things, and I'm still in school. I go to school every day just like everybody else does. We stay in school, it's Jesus University. But anyway, when they told me I was a paper terrorist, and I said, no, hang on. I said, you're saying I wad up paper and I throw it at you. Is that what a paper terrorist is? They said, oh, no, you're not. You're clogging the justice system. That's what a paper terrorist is. Well, let me tell you, friends, what a paper terrorist really is. A paper terrorist, it don't even really exist, but it's someone that's just really almighty, that's in God's army, one of God's soldiers that stands up as a messenger to these liars and tell them they're lying. Everything they're saying is a lie. Everything that they get that from is a lie. And when you perpetrate that, you're lying too. Well, I finally, when it broke me down, and I started crying, man, my heart filled full of tears, and I was just heartbroken that they're crushing Jesus like that, and they're crushing God. And they're just stomping them, after they take that oath of office and they take their hand off the Bible, they flush the dang Bible right down the toilet, and they flush God down the toilet, and they keep God hidden instead of standing up for him what they promised to do. But anyway, I was so heartbroken by it. I started crying real hard, and I couldn't quit. Tears was flowing out of both of my eyes. And there was over hundreds of witnesses there that seen me do it, all the elected officials with the fancy badges, the pagan badges. the devil worshiping badges they wear. Well, anyway, with the devil worshiping hats and the devil worshiping guns and tasers and everything else they're doing. But when they're supposed to be peace officers. Anyway, when I started crying, they all of a sudden, it was real emotional, mostly for me, but it all of a sudden turned emotional for them, and they wanted to know why I was crying after what was just said to me about the people and everything, and I was just crushed that everybody's a terrorist. I couldn't believe it. But anyway, and I could barely squeeze the words out, you know, when they asked me what was wrong, and I asked them right then, each and every one of them, why are all of y'all lying? Why is every one of y'all lying? Well, here we go again. They use that term legal, well, there's nothing lawful about legal. When you hear them say legal this and legal that, it's just one big lie after another. There's nothing lawful about it. But anyway, they say, we have a legal right to lie to you and anybody else we want to. And I said, no, sir, you sure don't. I said, you show me in your oath of office when you held your hand on the Bible that you have a right to lie to anybody. Well, they bowed their heads in guilt. That's what I thought. But you know what? These idiots still bowing their heads in guilt, not standing up for God, what they promised to do. And they're carrying on with their lying every day. It's every day. It ain't just every now and then. It's all the time by every one of them. If a police pulls you over, that's a lie. And so on. You have the freedom of travel. That doesn't mean you have to have a license. You got to have a license to drive in commerce. But that's a whole other issue. If y'all start subscribing, maybe we'll go into those 5-day seminars and just tell you who you really are. That legal artificial entity ain't nothing more than a commercial transaction. And when they say you broke the law, you ain't broken nothing unless you murdered somebody or raped or something like that where the body's armed. But if you didn't harm nobody, you ain't broken no law. They had to get money out of you that you don't know about. But anyway, that's another lie after a lie after a lie. And our Federal Reserve notes is another big lie because the Constitution tells us that printing money on paper with ink on it is one big fat lie. We ain't even supposed to need money. And what are we all chasing after? The greed root of all evil. Well, anyway, moving right along, when I confronted them about all their lies, and they said they had a legal right to lie, and I proved it didn't. But they're still lying. Just because they need that illegal counterfeit money that they get paid. And then they're paying taxes too on that. But see, all the police and the police's families and their children's children is all victims of this thing too. And if you haven't woken up to it, you will, guaranteed. But anyway, moving right along, now I'm a paper terrorist all of a sudden. And so they started explaining to me what a paper terrorist is and like I was going after somebody. And so I asked them, I said, well, who am I going after? I said, I'm not here going after anybody. I said, I'm here to open everyone's eyes that you're all victims too. But you're so blind you can't see it, or you refuse to see it, or you want to look the other way. When you promised God, you'd stand up for Him and the good Lord Jesus. But anyway, moving right along, after I confronted them about all their lies and everything, long story short, I'll just get to the tail end of this thing. And what happened was, eventually, at the very last minute, they called me into court. Man, it was like 2 years later maybe, or a year and a half later, a year later, somewhere like that. But anyway, they called me into court, and I'm thinking, well, we're just going to go talk again. But that ain't what it turned out to be. They tried to hang me on the cross just like they did the good Lord Jesus. But the truth will set you free. There's nothing like knowledge and wisdom to back it up. And when you got God on your side, you can never lose. No matter where you go or what you do. God promised us that He'd take good care of His finest, His army. And if you stand up for God and you take an oath of office with your hand on the Bible and you promised God, well, you're in God's army too. And until you flush it down the toilet. then you're not in God's army no more. You're in Satan's army. We know what happens there. They lose in the end, and the end is here. It's near. It's any day now. It ain't weeks, months, or years anymore. It's any day now. Because our banks are crashing and everything's just getting real ugly out there. And these children that don't know who they are, the transgenders, oh my God, you can't really blame them because they went to a damn brainwashing school, just like the rest of us. We all come from monkeys and stuff like that, you know, and how in the world could you ever keep up with who you are if you don't know the truth to begin with? But anyway, it ought to be pretty obvious if you're a girl or a guy, and get right with Jesus and quit playing transgender games and whatever. Just face up to who you really are, because that's the way the good Lord made you. He made you in His likeness and image, meaning that you shine just like He does, and you got all the greatness that they do. But anyway, getting to the tail end of the paper terrorist thing, I walk back up to the plate, and me and God's the only one in the courtroom. They all leave out of the courtroom. I had people coming up to me and said they've never seen anything like this. They've never seen a man walk into a courtroom and empty the courtroom just by himself. And I said, well, I'm not by myself. I said, God's with me. Or actually, I'm with God, because I wouldn't be able to do it without Him, ever. And I had that strength, and I still do and always will. But anyway, so I go there. The traveling judge that was there come and found me. And he actually walks back when I come back from the restroom in the hall. I walk back in the courtroom. It's like the lights get brighter when I walk in. And I'm sure of that because everybody else seen it too. I thought it was just me, but it wasn't. It was other people. They've seen it. They wasn't sure, but it was just the biggest, brightest light that you ever seen in the light, and it was nothing but peace for me. Well, anyway, all of a sudden, this traveling judge, along with all the other liars, prosecutors and stuff like this, all of a sudden now I'm being tried. And so I demand jury trial through the whole thing. If they're going to crucify me, then I have a right to a jury trial. Well, they kept denying me that, and they kept calling my daddy. Like my dad's going to really do something about it. Well, when parents or adults or anybody stands up for government, well, you're lying too. You're just as much as a deceiver as Satan himself is, and you got to quit doing that. You got to get right with Jesus. You got to stand up for God's laws only. But anyway, when I stepped up to the plate with them, all of a sudden I'm being crucified and I'm being hung, nailed to the cross, and then they're telling me I'll have to live longer than Moses to be able to pull this thing off. They're trying to give me 110 years. $800 and something thousand fine, and laughing about it, that I'd have to live longer than Moses. And I looked at them and I told them that would never happen. And anyway, it went from all of that down to you were found innocent. After I kept demanding a jury trial and all that, and I demanded papers. I said, I want papers of all this commercial transactions. I called out all the commercial transactions paperwork that the state uses, and they never denied it. They knew I was right, and I knew I was right. And anyway, so I demanded all that stuff, and they denied me of every bit of it. They denied me the court reporter that was there. They denied me of her, all the way down to the boo-hooing thing again. They kept telling me I was found innocent, and I was free to go, and I said I was innocent before I came in here, and I was free to go too at any time. But anyway, so I pretty much started boo-hooing again. I couldn't believe it, and I was practically begging Judge Stone, which was a traveling judge. It makes you think, well, don't we have local judges? You know what we pay them for. Well, anyway, they sent a traveling judge from God knows where, but his name was Judge Stone, and the guy actually, I think, felt like that he had a conscience, and he was trying to listen. And I always let your conscience be your guide, by the way. Anyway, that man looked at me while I was boo-hooing, and they done told me I was free to go, and I was found innocent, and I'm still boo-hooing, because none of them listened to anything I said, and I was there to try to help save them, and let them save themselves, and not only themselves, but their children's children. That's what this is really all about, is saving the children, because they're innocent of all this. They all been lied to too, but it's time to wake them up and let our children know what's really going on. And everyone that wants to be saved by Jesus. Anyway, so the judge looks at me and goes, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. He says, if you feel like that these people have seriously violated you, and he knew that they have, if they've really seriously violated you, he said, you write their names down and you bring them to me, and I will summons each and every one of those for free. He said, I'll do it personally myself. And my tears of unhappiness went to tears of joy immediately. Well, I couldn't draw up long enough to tell him to go ahead right then. I said, thank you, sir, and I really appreciate it. He said, you come see me. I said, okay. So I left because I was so disarrayed about everything. It just blew me away, but I still won everything, you know. The truth always trumps lies. I don't care how much they try to perpetrate a lie. But anyway, so I go back the next day to the courthouse. Next thing you know, they want to shoot and taser me and put me in my grave, you know. Yeah, you're going to get shot in the head, you know, and they're threatening me with all this. And I was trying to explain to them. And 2 or 3 of them that was there when I showed back up the next day even heard the judge say it. Well, anyway, they said the judge didn't say no such a thing, and said that judges don't do that, and you need to get out of here. And so anyway, they pretty much run me off through threat and their terrorist attacks. They're really the terrorists around here, because they're terrorizing the dang people, and they're terrorizing their own children. They're eating their own kind. Believe me, friends, none of them pay taxes. You think a judge pays taxes? Or any of the damn state representative pays property taxes? No. They don't have to, because they know. And we don't have to either. Anyway, I was going to read a couple things. One is to take heed, because never forget that Jesus was very upset when he ran all of the tax collectors, government, evildoers, and the money changers, meaning the bankers and evildoers, out of the temple. And that you are the temple of God. And one of the famous quotes that Thomas Jefferson once said, the level of Trinity that you live under is the exact level you will put up with. And that's when they throw you out in the streets. You know, you ain't got a home no more. Your kids ain't got a home no more because they lied to you and you never did stand up to say anything. But hopefully that's about to change. And it is. We're all hoping that millions and millions of people that watch this video will awaken to the truth. And they will know who they really are and not be lied to ever again. That's what this is all about. In John chapter 17, verse 15, Jesus prayed that he come to not take us from this world, but to rid us of all evil. So it's coming. And he's already ridden the evil, because there's people waking up, and there's some really, 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 really intelligent people in God's army. Believe me. And don't you think for 1 minute, friends, that God's going to inform his army what the lies are and what the truth really is, and who Jesus is coming to save us, and that God's true elite is in God's army. And when God comes back, the second coming, he's not to take us of this world, but to rid us of all evil. Hello? He's sending in his angels, and he's going to send his angels to come get you and me and my friends, the true elite, the true standing army of God, that will not put up with a lie or perpetrate a lie for nobody. They stand up for God, and that's what we're put here for, even if we live to be 100 or 125. Sooner or later, you're going to have to see the old boy. But anyway, he's our Father of fathers, the King of kings, and the Lord of lords. And there's only one. And when you talk about God and you talk about Jesus, you're talking about one and the same. Anyway, okay, Thomas Jefferson said the level of Trinity you live under is the exact level you will put up with. And if you allow local banking, that's a bigger army than all of the standing armies put together. They're here, they done raped us, and they done took it. But anyway, Jesus is going to come and save us. Now, we the people are waking up, and the truth is knowing who we really are. We must obey God rather than men. Acts chapter 5, verse 29. 1, did you know that by paying property tax, it has been ruled by the higher courts, the Supreme Court judges, to be unconstitutional? It's a scam. It's a fraud upon the people. And if you don't believe me, you look up case law, People versus Shepherd. It's already been tried and won. It's not even open for argument, but what do people do? They go to pay the property taxes. Oh, they go to pay the interest on the national debt. Hello? It's unlawful. Property taxes is unlawful. It's ruled by Satan. God give us the land for free. Satan took it from you, and he's charging you to live on it. Anyway, and did you know by getting a license for anything has been ruled by the higher court, Supreme Court judges, that that's also unconstitutional, and you can refuse it. It's a scam and a fraud upon the people. Murdoch versus Penn State. Also, did you know that bank foreclosures, how many of you out there is under bank foreclosures? Goodness gracious, y'all. We're going to tell you where you can go and get educated at after this video. And I'll give that to you here just in a minute. And we're going to tie this thing up in a nutshell here just in a few. But you'll have information to where you can refer to. And Carl Miller is the greatest. Seek Carl Miller too and watch all 3 parts. He's got 3 parts, and if you want to know who you really are and who your kid really is and who your mama really was and who my daddy really is and all that, well, watch Carl Miller. And you know, it don't matter what race, color, anything you are. There's no such a thing as blacks and whites and pinks and reds and all over, you know, when this racist thing, you know, where blacks against blacks, blacks against whites, whites against blacks. I mean, what about the Asians? What about the Chinese people? Hello, the Indonesians and all, you know, there's a whole bunch of us. How do you separate, how do you divide just a white person and a black? My God, man, we're all friends. And I've met some real educated black people, and I don't care what race you are or what you think you are, there's good and evil in every race. And you got to figure out which one you are. And you're good, and you want to be good, and you always want to do the right thing because you prosper from it. Not only do you prosper, but your family prospers, your children's 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 children. Wasn't that great? You know, you get to live to be 100 and still be athletic and go, man. And you leave this big wide world and you go back home where you came from to begin with because you're just that good old Joe and you're standing up for God. Isn't it a great peace of mind to know that your children's children's going to heaven too and that they'll be taken care of? Back in the old days when your granddaddy and all them bought land, they didn't buy it to resell. They bought it to hang on to because that way, when you hand it down to your kids and they hand it down to their kids, they're not debtors of no one. They're debt free. And God, that's the best way to start off in life, is to be a debtor of no one. Jesus' prayer says that. But anyway, let's read on a couple more things here before we go. Bank foreclosures has been ruled by the Supreme Court that it's a scam upon the people also. Boyd versus the United States. Here's a biggie. Did you know that the IRS has been ruled by the Supreme Court judges to be unconstitutional too? It's a scam, a fraud upon the people. I'm sure that don't surprise a bunch of y'all, but for the ones that's been paying it because you're living in fear, you need to quit. Quit paying these people. Keep your money. Quit putting them in banks. Anyway, Hey, the Federal Reserve note is unconstitutional too. Federal Reserve note. Oh yeah, that's that $100 bill, $50 bill. Oh, the paper with the ink on it. Oh yeah, that they just create a thin air. Okay, I can see how that's unconstitutional. We weren't supposed to need money anyway. Anyway, it has been ruled by the Supreme Court, the higher court judges, to be unconstitutional. It's a scam, a fraud upon the people. Montgomery Ward versus Glacier. And it's also been proven that the value of the dollar, the substance of the dollar, is the same value in the substance of a coffee bean. But anyway, you can get this and much, much more if you'll watch Carl Miller. He was one of mine and Bob's greatest friends, and I'm a Bob too. So anyway, we're hoping that we can enlighten people and wake them up to the fact. Yeah, and we use case law. It's not even open for argument or discussion. It just proves right off the get-go it's a lie. It's to save taxpayers' money in the courts. But they don't want to hear it when you trump the truth. Trump the lies with the truth. They don't like you no more, and you become the enemy. The Bible talks about by standing up for God, you will become the enemy when really we're not. Their enemy is using us as an scapegoat. Anyway, right here it's also been proven that, let's see, okay, you don't need an attorney or anything. Oh, attorney. When you hear constitutional attorneys or constitutional lawyer, well, all that's a lie too. There are no such a thing. They're there to perpetrate the lie right there with the best of them. If you were to read the Constitution, look how thin that little book is. It ain't but 14,400 words, and that little old scrawny thing, this right here can save your life. This is more powerful than all this put together right here because it's God. But anyway, it's been proven that the Supreme Court judges has ruled that all codes, the OCGA of Georgia, the official code of Georgia enunciated, Tennessee, the code's a lie. It's another lie that they, but anyway, the Supreme Court judges, the higher courts has ruled, and they always ruled that all codes, all rules, all regulations are for government authorities only. Are you a government employee? Well, anyway, that's another 5-day seminar. Anyway, it says that all rules, regulations, codes, and everything are for government authorities and not human beings, creators in accordance with God's laws. But anyway, codes, regulations, rules, they're all laws too. It ain't got nothing to do. We're ruled by articles and amendments. We're ruled by God's laws. God don't have codes and sections and titles and rules. It's already been written. You can't change it. They sure have tried to manipulate it, and they sure did hide God, didn't they, from you? But anyway, okay, our rights are God-given. They're not government-granted. And I just want to close with this little tidbit that for the rest of y'all that really wants to be informed and not be one of those victims that God talks about in Hosea, that you're being destroyed by the lack of knowledge and wisdom because you're not praying for it. Now, God will answer your prayers. I will guarantee you He'll answer your prayers when you pray from the heart and soul with feeling. Now, when He answers your prayers, here's the kicker. Get ready to be prepared for what comes along with that prayer. He'll answer the prayer, but next thing you know, you go, oh my God, I didn't know all this was coming with the prayer. Well, I can't back out of it because I did pray sincerely for it. And you're looking at a guy that thought he was done with school when I graduated barely from high school because they couldn't get my attention in school and millions of others, I'm sure, because they're sitting there trying to tell me I come from a darn monkey. That's just the tip of the iceberg. All the books were written by Darwin in school. And back in the day, like Lindsey Williams tells, when the schools were founded, they were all in the same school, the same church. Well, it was all the temple. And when you went to school, everybody got one book. And the book was the Bible. And we got several to choose from. This Bible here has 81 books in it. But anyway, it's got the Apocrypha, the Deuteronomy, and I've actually read them to death, and a lot of knowledge and wisdom, but the basics is what we're looking for. Please seek the good Lord Jesus today in your heart. Pray for God to come, Jesus to come and save you. And not only come save you, but come and save your mom and dad and your brothers and your friends and your sisters and your kids. Please pray for Jesus today and find Jesus in your heart. It's the only way to get to where you're wanting to go. And that's the way it is for everybody. We're all on the same page here, folks. It's not complicated, and it's for everyone. We're all created equal. And if you want to prosper, have a lovely life, a joyful life, look what God gave me, man. I know I worked hard for it and everything, and you earned when you put in a lot of hard work, you get things out of life. And when you have God in your heart and Jesus in your heart, well, you'll do nothing but it'll just be great for the rest of your life. And then the greatest thing is not only will you be in heaven on earth, you'll be going back home to heaven. It'll be waiting on you. And all your friends and family will be there glad to see your grannies. And I can't wait to go and see my grannies and stuff like that. And my other loved ones and friends that will actually make it. Now, when Jesus comes and saves us in the second coming, from that moment on, when he awakens everyone and rids of all evil, nobody will be able to lie to nobody ever again for over, 1,000 years. Then Satan will be put into the abyss. That means everyone goes to heaven from that moment on. Because no one will be lying to nobody. Nobody will be scamming nobody no more. Do not trust your government. Do not trust your kings and rulers. Do not trust Obama or Hillary or any. They're all lying. And big time. And, all the presidents are related too, by the way. From George Washington up to Obama, man, they're all evil. They're all brothers. They're all sisters. They're all cousins, kissing cousins too, boy. I'm talking about evil. But anyway, y'all find Carl Miller and find Jesus Christ in your heart today, and may God come and save and bless us all. Y'all have a great day.